So the art and science of feedback, and as introduced, I am Tushar Vakil and I am a leadership coach. So this was sent to you already, so I'll let you read it. We kind of all know that feedback is essential for professional development and relationship, both personal and home or professional. So why do we avoid it? Why do we dread it? Why do we even dismiss it? So it's an interesting, what can we say, contradiction. Then what are the three triggers that block feedback? So why don't we receive feedback? Why do we avoid it? And learning response to overcome these triggers. So there's a contradiction here. We know that feedback helps our professional development, personal development. It helps us learn, grow, but then we are not very good at receiving it because of these triggers. So how can we overcome those? Often we just use a general term feedback for almost everything, but feedback is really three different things with three different purposes. What are those? We will look at it today. And then the problem arises when the wires get crossed. So we want one kind of feedback and someone is giving another kind. Then how to untangle this crossed communication. So that is what we are going to cover in today's session. And then there will be question answer session. Okay, here are the benefits. Become more self-aware and help others do the same. Improve your learning ability and the team's learning ability, because we are all managers, I believe. Better teamwork and lesser conflicts. If we are in HR, training, learning, OD, management professionals, it's also extremely essential for us to role model the behaviors that we expect others to do. And so this is a little bit about us. We think that leadership affects almost every aspect of an organization's performance. Profit, non-profit, social, political. And good leaders make a difference in the world, and bad leaders is opposite. So our mission is to develop leaders, one leader at a time, to make the world better. That's our mission. And a little bit about me. I am founder of New Age Leadership. I have coached about 500 leaders one-on-one. I have headed talent management in large organizations from 2,000 to 6,000 employees. I have lived and worked in 3 separate countries, US, Middle East, and India, of course, and worked in Africa. So as Ritu said, I am also certified coach by Dr. Marshall Goldsmith. So a couple of things about you. You can visit the blog and there are dozens of fantastic articles. You can look at the videos on our website, including 2-minute leadership lessons series. We also have a free 15-day access to our online leadership class, which you can enroll for completely free. Okay. And if you send us email at info@newageleadership.com, I'd be happy to send you the PDF of today's presentation. So enough about me. Let's get to the main point. Okay. So you guys can type the answers in the chat if you would like. What is feedback? And maybe an example or two of feedback. So what is feedback? And maybe an example or two of feedback. If anyone wants to type, you can quickly type your answers. Some trainers here also, right? What is feedback? And any examples of feedback? Okay, Ritu, am I audible?
Yes, Tusharji, yes.
Okay, so then maybe I will start with some of the answers then.
So you may want to type or somebody wants to speak.
Okay, maybe speaking is easier, no, instead of typing. Just maybe one person, 2 people, so we don't extend the session too long. What is feedback? A quick answer.
Somebody writes, Eba writes process of receiving and giving views, suggestions. Neha writes two-way communication. Could be an appraisal discussion.
Correct. Fantastic. Thank you. All correct answers. So, feedback in general is any information you get about yourself as an individual or your company. So some examples, as you said, are annual performance review. We enjoy it, correct? We all love it. Something like organizational climate survey. Some organizations do 360-degree feedback, which is official feedback. And some of the other things are subtle. So your spouse's comment about your cooking, or his or her comment about your outfit, or your son's eyes lighting up when you attend his play at school. So is that feedback? Yes or no? Now, obviously it is. Or like me, I was the last one to be picked on cricket team. So that is also feedback about me, you know. So out of the 11 players, I am the last one to be picked when we pick. Or how many likes I got on social media post. So the point I was trying to make it is that feedback is everywhere all the time, and we are swimming in kind of an ocean of feedback, if you would agree. True? Okay. So then I will talk about quick history of feedback. Can someone turn their microphone off? I think there is a background noise. Thank you so much. Okay. Okay, let me do it from here. Mute all. Okay. Okay. So a quick history of feedback. Feedback comes from the background of science, late 19th century, early 20th century. The term was used in electrical circuit and sound circuit when something was fed and came back to the same point. It was called feedback loop. But after World War II, eventually management started developing. Industrial relations came in, then performance management started. So feedback term comes from feed corrective information back. That is why it's called feedback. Feed corrective information back. So that's what feedback means. And that's when it came into management parlance. So is feedback important and why? Can any one or two people share their views on?
Hi Tushar, this is Deepika.
Yeah. So a quick thought on is feedback important and why?
Yeah, of course, feedback is very important because as a person, say I am a trainer and I am regularly training different employees on different forums. So for me as a trainer, feedback is very important so as I can improve myself into the same field, and I'm just talking professionally. It can be personally, it can be any which way I want to receive a feedback for. So of course, in order to improvise myself, my skills, my talent, the way I do things in a better in a better manner in the future, of course, for me, feedback is very important.
Thank you, Deepika. Absolutely. So we intuitively understand these facts. In fact, there is no company who doesn't take feedback from their customers, because that is the only way to improve and bring on new features. But when it comes to our personal life, when it comes to our work life, we are usually not very happy about receiving feedback. Yeah. So next question is feedback easy or difficult? So giving is easy, receiving is difficult, or both are easy, or both are difficult. What are thoughts any one person wants to share?
Yeah, hi. This is Natanj.
Yeah.
So I personally feel that generally people do not want to take feedback. The general, I think everyone will agree to it. Generally, people are, also the bad listeners, to be honest. They want to give their own experience, but they do not want to take. So in the other words, yes, you are absolutely right. It is a little difficult. People generally do not take. But however, a good leader, a good manager is the one who actually, take the feedback from the team as well. And what's going right and what's going wrong. That's what.
Correct. Yeah. So feedback is not so easy, and it's usually difficult. So the question we ask is feedback easy or difficult? So here are some statistics. So my performance review was inaccurate or unfair. 55% of the employees believe that. Next, performance review is the most difficult and scary part of their job. So this 25% of the employees think that. Their managers' lack of ability/courage to have feedback discussion is a big problem. So 63% of the employees say that the manager doesn't give me feedback that is useful or doesn't have the courage. And managers, on the other hand, consistently rate feedback as one of the most difficult part of their responsibilities. You think giving feedback would be easy, but giving feedback in a proper manner, it's not so easy. So these are some of the surveys, and these are done year after year, and similar numbers come up. So organizations are spending billions on performance reviews, training people on how to give feedback, but things are not going so well, as we can see from the numbers, no? Feedback often meets resistance. Sometimes it's rejected outright. And instead of people improving on feedback, often it creates toxic culture. So something is not working, correct? Something needs to be improved. So we will move on. So what is the solution? Normally, people spend so much time, and I mean individual and organizations both, how to give feedback in a better way. Push harder. Continuously give feedback. Don't just have a performance conversation once a year. Tell them all the time. But the focus is on give, give, give. And I think that is the problem. We have it backwards. Why do we have it backwards? The focus should not be on teaching givers how to give feedback. The focus should be at work and at home on helping us more skillful listeners, as Mitansh said, and more skillful learners. Yeah, the onus should be on us. So we should become better. And believe it or not, this is the key variable in your growth. Whether you learn from this training program or any other training program, it depends more on you than any other factor. Whether you learn at job more than the manager, it depends on you. And we all wish that we have special mentors or special people in our life who would teach us patiently, interesting way, who would understand us. But they are really rare. They come once in a while. So becoming a better feedback receiver will help us to learn, grow, and move forward. Because let's be real, those kinds of people who are mentors and give us real good feedback are rare. Okay. So this is what it means, that we need to learn how to receive feedback in a better manner. Now, we want to teach others how to receive feedback. Well, if you are the manager, be the role model, and immediately people will follow you. So I come home from work and spread on the sofa, put my feet on the table and watch TV for 2 hours. But I would tell my children when they were younger that, hey, go study. So does it work? So I'm sure you have been in that experience. But if I do what I preach, and it works very well. Yeah. So we'll move on. So as we said, we are trained how to give feedback all the time. Yeah. But we are not trained on how to receive it. So we are changing the game as to if we become better feedback seekers, we can learn from almost everyone. Yeah. Including maybe our mother-in-law and including that toxic boss and whoever else is out there. Okay.
So Tushar, hi.
Yeah.
You said we are how to give feedback.
Mm-hmm.
We are trained how to give feedback.
Correct.
Is it so? I really doubt. Let's not talk about in the personal life.
Mm-hmm.
In professional life, I don't feel that, most of the time feedback is to encourage or to improvise. It is more of a criticism.
Yeah, true. So by feedback, what we mean is when someone does something wrong, then we have to tell him or her that this is what you did wrong. So I
Rather than
agree.
giving the, guiding the solution, it is just like, it's not done, you have not done it. Like, so
Yeah,
that's not a feedback.
right. Very true. So even the training for giving feedback, it's not very prevalent, but you must have heard of give feedback in a sandwich, right? How many of you have heard of sandwich feedback? So you say something good, then you say something unpleasant, and you top it off with something good. So, or when you give feedback about specific behavior, don't label them. So these are the kinds of things we have learned on giving feedback, but we hardly ever learn anything on receiving feedback. So that's what I meant. And some organizations don't even train people how to give feedback. So agreed. Yeah. So why is feedback so hard? We understand that it's necessary for improvement. Yeah. Why do we avoid it? Why do we dread it? Why do we even dismiss it? So here are the reasons. Receiving feedback sits at the intersection of two basic human needs, two separate needs. Yeah. So what is the first one? One is our drive to learn. So are we natural learners? Yes or no? If we were not, we won't teach ourselves how to speak or walk or talk or excel or whatever else. No. So it's another fact that teaching might be difficult. Some bad teachers make it bad for us, but human beings have a natural drive to learn, and we are curious beings. So that is our first. And feedback helps us learn. Without feedback, it's difficult to learn. So if this is the only part, then why does feedback sometimes feels like colonoscopy, or pulling your teeth out? So for the ladies who are married, when your mother-in-law comments about your cooking, how do you feel? It's not good. Or for at work, you have worked hard on a report and boss says, hey, this is nonsense. How do you feel? No? So these are the kinds of things. So instead of gift that we can learn from, feedback feels like real hassle. And the reason is the second part. Second part is our longing to be accepted as we are. Because if you don't accept me as I am, that means I am not enough. There are faults in me, and the ego comes into play. So feedback sits at exactly the intersection of these opposite forces which pull in different directions, and this is what happens. So boss tells me my report is bad, and I sit down and write down 10 things that are wrong about him, or I at least do it in my mind again and again. What has he done? How are his reports? So instead of thinking that, hey, maybe I need to improve something or have a discussion on what he wants from my reports, we go on this mental video which takes us somewhere else. And as I said, if mother-in-law comes in, or a sister, or or even a mother comes in and comments about how you have arranged the house or how the bathrooms are unclean, and then we start, instead of saying that maybe the bathroom is unclean, we go on a tangent, and it becomes like many of the TV serials that are mother-in-law, daughter-in-law kind of thing, at least mentally. So as we said, because of these two opposing forces, human needs, feedback becomes so hard. So as I said, feedback is really three different things, and sometimes we don't understand that. Yeah. So first is, and these three things have three different purposes, as you will see. So appreciation is thanks. So when my subordinate comes in and says that, sir, I have done this. So many times he's just looking for appreciation. My son comes in and shows me some report or a drawing or fill in the blank he has done. He hasn't come to me for criticism or evaluation or for coaching or anything else. He just wants me to say, hey, great job. So that's appreciation. Second is coaching. So here's a better way to do it. What is coaching? So you have done good, but if you wanted to improve, here are the 1, 2, 3, 4 things you could do to make it even better. But what happens when someone is looking for appreciation and we start coaching? So advice is the most free commodity in the world. It's on social media. It's on us. A wonderful book has come out called The Advice Monster, Taming the Advice Monster. You might want to read it. And the third one is evaluation. And this is the one we dislike the most. Evaluation is you haven't done this right. And it's like going on to the master chef and they telling you that this is not right, or the taste is not right, or the presentation is not right. So that evaluation, people judging you, that is what becomes an issue. So as I said, we want to hear one kind of feedback and the person understands that you're getting another kind of feedback. So let's say I am a budding painter. I have started painting. So I have made a portrait and I show it to my professional friend. So what am I looking at that point of time? Am I looking for appreciation, coaching, evaluation? What do you think? This is my first draft of a portrait, someone's portrait. So my guess is it is appreciation. So he should just say, hey, great job. Very nice for the first time. Instead, he gives me a list of 11 things I should do to improve my portrait. So what has happened here? Misunderstanding about what my need of feedback was and what he or she understood. Now let's just flip this opposite. So I have become a good painter now and I do good. Now I want to learn really from my professional friend as to what I need to improve. And he just brushes me off saying, hey, great job. This is a nice portrait. So then again, I am disappointed, won't I be? Because I was looking for one thing and I got something else. So one of the things is don't get the wires crossed. This is where the problems arise. What we need to do is understand and confirm that what feedback is they are seeking it, and the same we give, correct? So that's what one of the three things is. So why feedback is hard? Because feedback triggers 3 responses in us. 3 responses. Now we might think that it might trigger dozens of responses or hundreds of responses, but we can classify all into 3 responses. So first one is truth triggers. So what are truth triggers? So truth triggers are something like the feedback is wrong. It is unfair. It is unhelpful. Feedback truth triggers are about the substance of the feedback. What does he know about painting? What does he know about managing? What does he know about Excel? What does she know about cooking? What does she know about programming? So those are the kinds of things. So when we think that it is unhelpful or untrue, we feel wrong and we defend, we attack back, and that is what truth triggers it. Okay? So that's what truth, and we will go in a little bit of detail in a second. Second is relationship triggers. So we all have a history and a baggage in each relationship with our boss, with our spouse, with our children, with our neighbor, and that triggers response. So I don't want to hear this feedback from you, or who are you to tell me, after I have done all these things for you, how can you say that? So it's the history and the baggage, the emotional baggage of the relationship that triggers this particular response in us. So truth trigger, relationship trigger, and finally identity triggers. So our identity is something we guard very closely, anytime. So when something threatens my identity, so these are the kinds of things that usually come from our childhood, and those are formed by the age of 5. So I'm not good at math, or I am a genius at math, or things about your religion, gender, identity, those kinds of trigger those reactions. Religion is one. If someone says something bad about my God, then it immediately triggers my response. And as such, religion is what? my God is better than your God. No? So everyone has a different version. So 3 triggers, I would take about 10 minutes to go into a little bit more details, and we'll open the floor for questions. So truth triggers are that feedback is wrong. It's completely wrong. My cooking is good. My report is good. My behavior is good. That's not helpful. It's completely useless. Yeah. You are not authority on giving me feedback. There is no need to give such feedback. And that's simply not me. Why do we do that? Because we have blind spots. So we think other people have blind spots. I don't have it. So the funny thing about blind spot is they are called blind spots because I am blind to it. So these are the triggers that are kind of triggered in truth trigger reaction. Okay, what else? Relationship triggers. As I mentioned, after all I have done for you, this is what you say. So have you ever been triggered by relationship trigger? So the boss says something about you. Say you've been lazy, you've not been completing your work. So then you bring out 10 different items from your past where you say that I stayed up late on this day, I did this for you, and this is what you are saying to me. So it's the baggage of the relationship. And who the hell are you to say that? You yourself don't do it, and you are expecting me to do it. Yeah. And you are the problem, not me. You are the one who is causing me to get angry. You are the one who is causing me to not perform. You are the one who is causing me this and that. So it's the relationship baggage. And finally, the identity triggers. So as I said, identity is something that we have been programmed from young age. So if I was always someone who fumbled things, who dropped things, and now I have taken that label. So you screw up things all the time. Why did you screw up? Now, the comment might just be casual as a feedback, but what happens is it triggers my emotional reaction from all my past, and I start doubting myself. I might even cry. I am a screw up. Yeah, I am doomed. I don't have hope. Or am I that bad a person? Or yes or no? And we start questioning ourselves. And that's not a good place. We either attack or we become depressed, unpleasant, etc. Okay. So the question is, how do we overcome these feedback triggers? So there are some pointers here. So these are not perfect, but we can, kind of have some pointers, and then we will discuss the benefits. So do you agree triggers keep us from learning and improving? Yes or no? So I believe the answer is obviously yes, correct? Second is, we should separate appreciation, coaching, and evaluation. So when you were given the advice of the feedback sandwich, it is a really bad advice because you are mixing something that is different. Keep appreciation with appreciation, evaluation with evaluation, and get an agreement on that is what you are doing. Don't mix these things, okay? It's a toxic cocktail. Now, this is the mindset that we have to have. Shift from that feedback is wrong to tell me more. So tell me more, it's really important. And maybe if we have time and if you allow me, I'll share an example that happened with my own son. So remind me if we have time. So tell me more allows you to understand what is the reason behind this particular feedback. And see your blind spots. As I said, you can't see that there is dirt on your face, and you need mirrors, and you need honest mirrors in your life, people who give you feedback. So we understand this intuitively. So for example, I am making a presentation to top management, and I have made the first draft, and I have 2 subordinates. One is my fan club. He is, yes sir, sir, you are great, you are the best. And the other one is honest. He'll tell me whatever, he'll call an A. So which feedback would I like? Which feedback would be pleasant? Which feedback would be helpful? Which feedback would help me make a better presentation? So you know the answer, correct? So this one is cultivate a growth identity, and that's what we teach in coaching. So there is no improvement without feedback. Any relationship that is important to you can only be improved. Any product, any service, anything can be improved only through feedback. Otherwise, it stays the same. And lastly, are there any benefits of becoming a good feedback receiver? So the question is, you don't always have to act upon the feedback. You just have to ask, listen, and thank for the feedback. Why? Because they are giving the feedback to other people anyway. So if I'm being a jerk, someone has the courage to come and tell me that, sir, your behavior was really rude. I get what we call punishing the messenger. No, we punish the messenger. Who the hell are you saying? So instead, we need to thank them. Doesn't mean we act on it. We just need to thank them for having the courage to tell us to our face. Does it make sense?
Uh,
Yeah. Can you unmute yourself?
yeah, Nishant here.
Mm-hmm.
I have a thought here, and there's a question that triggers right now. So whenever we are giving feedback to the leadership team, especially the senior leadership, so it is not easy. One, you need to collect a lot of courage. You need to gather a lot of courage to give the feedback, and then when you give the feedback, most of the time the people would not take it, as you are saying that we are supposed to listen to the feedback and thank for the feedback. But most of the time people have their ego that comes into picture, and people don't actually take the feedback. So is it the ego of leadership, the power ego, or is it something else that they operate from, because of which they are not in a position to take feedback from certain people? The same people might take feedback from, say, a peer or a senior colleague, but when a subordinate or a team member who's junior in designation goes ahead and give the feedback, it is not accepted most of the time. So just wanted to understand this part here.
Right. So correctly pointed. And in fact, this is what we teach leaders. We have stakeholder-centered coaching. And then the main idea is that if you have reasonably good people around you, they can give you feedback on how to improve. And as you said, if organizations were doing this routinely, we would definitely be out of business. No, we would have no business. But organizations are not doing that. And that is why it is doing that. So normally, it's one of the two problems, will or skill. So they are not willing to do that, or they are not trained or skilled in how to do that. So we can help with the second part. Now, what also happens is it starts with the culture. So when there's a fantastic article on Ellen Malale's 4 turnaround story on our website, and we use that to kind of create a change of culture, honesty, etc. in organizations by coaching the top leadership team. So this is a problem of willingness or lack of skills. And as you said, I completely agree with you. You can also think in terms of the lens that we discovered today. What kind of trigger is being triggered with a subordinate or with a particular person? So it could be either his identity trigger, the bosses, or most likely it's the relationship trigger. I don't need to listen from this bunch of idiots who work under me, so that's what might be the kind of thing. And as I said, how many of you would like to change your boss? So I ask this and people start laughing. And then I say, how many of you can change your boss? So and then people start laughing again. So it's like the childhood story about who will bell the cat. You must have heard it. So there's a cat in a house and it would come out and pounce on a mouse and eat it. And so a whole bunch of mice get together and they say that we should put a bell on the cat. So whenever the cat comes in, we would know that the cat is coming so we can run away or hide. And then one wise mouse says, oh, it's a fantastic idea. I just have one question. Who will bell the cat? So I don't know who will bell the cat of your boss. But what you can do is you can, instead of triggering your own reactions, if your role model is what makes you think so? What exactly do you want me to do to improve this report? can I make notes and run it by you that this is what it is? So that is something that might help. If you become a better role model, it might help him understand a little bit better. Okay, so I will move on. So, yeah.
Can I ask a question? Ashish this side.
Yeah, I was wondering, this is the last slide, I believe, and then
Okay.
we will open floor for question. Would that be okay? And
Yeah, perfectly fine.
I am available as long as if someone wants to leave, that's fine, but I'll be around, so no worries. So manage your emotional triggers. So you don't have to act on the feedback, just have to listen and thank. Manage your emotional triggers. We just talked about it, right? Engage in the conversation skillfully. So instead of emotional response, we can say, hey, thank you for telling me instead of telling others. Now, what do I have to do? And I'll end with a story that might help you understand what the process is. Making thoughtful choices. So this is very important. There's a quote which says that thinking is the hardest thing to do. That's why so few people do it. So we have to think. Be open in seeing yourself in new ways. Realize that we all have blind spots and we all have improvement areas. Otherwise, you would be perfect specimen of God. And unfortunately, I haven't met one. I have met a lot of those people who think they are one, but I haven't really met one. So as I said, great mentors and great teachers are rare. So we need to learn from everybody else who is just average in giving you feedback. And when we become good at receiving feedback, it accelerates our learning. It improves our relationship and it supercharges our performance. Kaushik, you raised your hand, but I'll open it up for questions in a second. Huh? So now I am open for questions and your comments, etc. And then before you go, I'll have a couple of links. If you would like, you can get access to some resources. So question would be one at a time. And if Ritu can monitor it, if we can raise your hand and do it one at a time.
Yes. So let's quickly see who's here. I think Kaushik raised his hand. Kaushik? Would you like to speak? Kaushik, am I audible? No, okay, any questions?
Ashish, I just wanted to ask one question. Hello?
Yeah, Ashish, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Tushar. Tushar, I really like the approach, the three segment that you shared, appreciation, coaching, and evaluation. But because I personally feel these are good approaches while doing work within an organization and probably in the personal space as well. But it's primarily more towards top-down approach when the people can thank thanks, appreciate our coach. But how will it move from from bottom to top when you are giving feedback? Again coming back to I believe what the gentleman that asked, going back again towards the top, interacting with the stakeholders, the leadership team. You really can't appreciate, you really can't coach, and you really can't evaluate, while giving feedback to them.
Right.
Because,
could you give me 1 second? I'll turn the curtain off. The sun is
right.
coming on my face. Yeah.
Right.
It's a similar question which Nishant asked that, top to bottom is fine, but from bottom to top, when you're giving the feedback, it's not taken up.
Right, because primarily, Ritu, yeah, you were right. Because primarily, it's been times and ages that we have been working on sandwich feedback, the technique that sandwich feedback moves.
Yeah.
But, treating it or segmenting it with respect to, appreciation, merely appreciation or a, coaching and an evaluation, a person who has certain commands in hand, will, I'm sure will take it on a on a good direction, but a senior manager or a senior management team taking the feedback from a junior employee or subordinate on these grounds would be, I think, probably identity trigger that what Tushar has shared gonna be a thing that will come up while the feedback
Yeah, and Tusharji, once we answer Ashish's question, I would request again we go back to Jagdeep's question. Jagdeep asked in the starting, so we may want to refer back to that.
Okay, so one thing at a time.
Yeah.
A boss who doesn't want to change, you can't do anything. I wish I knew how to bell the cat. However, you can role model it yourself. Can you appreciate your boss? Yes, no? Obviously, for honest things with specific. So appreciation would be fine. Yeah. Can you coach your boss? Yes. In a way where you can say, sir, is it okay if I make a suggestion or two that I have? Maybe you may agree with it, you may not agree with it. Yeah. So that is the coaching part where you are trying to improve. And in evaluation, if there are proper processes, 360 or HR is doing it, then it would be fine. Otherwise, it really depends on the person. If the person is not ready to receive feedback, it's very difficult to give him or her feedback. But you can always attempt by asking questions and asking permission.
Yes.
Is it okay if I make a comment? Is it okay if I share my view on this? Is it okay if I do this? So you can gauge that, is he in the right mood? Is she in the right mood to accept feedback? Then you can discuss.
So if I may add to this, Tusharji, I think the choice of words is very important here.
Correct.
One, right? That's, is it a good idea? May I suggest, can I share?
Asking for permission and then using those kinds of permission words will help. Sir, I think that this may improve this a little bit. May I share an idea?
Timings is also very important. At times, the situation is not like that you would like, or other person would like to take the feedback. The very same person, who otherwise is very good in taking feedbacks. But at times, the temperament is not like that. Then you need to evaluate before giving the feedback. That is also very, very important.
I agree completely. Just like children are really good at reading the moods of mom and dad, as employees, we are also pretty good at reading the boss's mood. Aaj boss ko chhedna mat, kuch gadbad hai.
I recall this, Tusharji, long ago, 15 years ago. Whenever I prefer to go for reviews and meetings early morning with my CEO, I used to talk to him. And the moment, because I felt कि सुबह जो हो जाए ना वो it's over. Otherwise you need to carry it till 7 o'clock in the evening. You are in stress, so it's better to complete it early morning. And my CEO was in a habit that if you add some value early morning, the whole day he will take your name and say, this I learned from Ritu, or this I learned from this person. And as soon as I used to reach back my workstation, people would used to ask, "Aaj boss ka mood kaisa hai yaar? Kal chutti ke liye पूछना है."
Correct. Just like the weather, before you go out, you check the weather. Before I dare go into the kitchen when my wife is busy and ready to go to work, I check the weather first and then I enter the kitchen. So we all learn how to manage ourselves. Yeah.
So seeking permission is what I understand what you said, seeking permission, choice of words. And it also depends on the temperament, as Jagdeep just pointed out, of the person. And many a times I feel that leaders are not ready to accept the, feedback, even they want to know about it, because sometimes they feel insecure that my subordinate is much more capable than me. So, they sometimes feel insecure. That's why they also don't want to take feedback from them.
Correct. So I have seen this again and again and again in the leaders when we start our coaching process. They are so concerned about adding this person or that person or seeking feedback from him or her. And by the end of third or fourth month, they are asking us, hey, I have another peer. Can I add him? Because they see the value in feedback. Yeah. If we can just get over our concern that we are not perfect, and we can improve and we can put our ego aside, it's a lovely, lovely tool, and it's the only tool with which you can improve.
Right.
So Jagdeep, what question was this? I'm sorry. I'm getting to the age where more brain cells are dying daily than our new ones are being created. So I forgot your question.
So Jagdeep had asked initially, Jagdeep, correct me if I'm wrong and you can add to it, that initially he said that sometimes when you were talking about that, people are taught how to give feedback.
Correct.
Right? And
correct.
That when leaders, they are, even despite being taught, they don't use it the way it should have been used. So I would want to add, is it because of the positional power or the ego traps they have that they don't use it despite knowing that first you appreciate it's the sandwich or the burger technique that we use. Many a times leaders don't use that and they're very direct. Jagdeep, that is what your question was?
Yeah. That's exactly what it was.
Okay. So there could be 2 or 3 things, and I can only guess. One is, of course, could be ego. Another is, this is what we see in training. So what is the biggest myth or fallacy about training? It is that if I know it, I will do it. And I'll start with me. I am now middle-aged and I have a little bit of a middle. It's not too bad that I need to lose. You know, they say that when you get middle-aged, you only grow in the middle. You can't grow vertically anymore. So I, being in training field, I know everything I need to know about losing this middle. How many minutes of aerobics, what heart rate, how many times a day, what strength conditioning, what aerobics, everything I know. My problem is not knowing, my problem is doing it. So my wife, she is wiser and smarter than me. She tells me that why don't you just hire a personal trainer? So do I hire a personal trainer because I don't know how to exercise? Not really. I hire a personal trainer for the accountability. So in training, one of the biggest fallacy, one of the biggest myths is that when the leader knows it, he will do it. Unfortunately, changing habits, changing our default behavior requires consistent follow-up and on-job application. And so that is one reason they might not be doing it. So I might go to a training program, and let's raise our hands and be honest. How many training programs we have got and how much of that we have actually applied on job? And then we expect the other parties, our trainees, to do that. So human beings just don't work that way. So that could be one reason. And other reasons could be ego or relationship triggers or some of the other things. So that's my 2 cents worth. I hope I helped answer that question.
Any other question? Anybody?
Yeah, Ritu ma'am, Tushar sir, Nishant here. I'm still wondering. I'm still trying to figure out why is that the leaders would operate from from this I would say positional power or the positional ego, and how as how can we probably one thing that we talked about a while ago was seeking permission, but then how should we tackle such people who have positional power, who have the power ego, if I say, and they would not want to listen, because in today's time a lot of our work as trainers is about managing the leadership. It can be at unit level or it can be at a central level, and these people have a lot of ego or power power ego, as I would call it, or positional power. So because of that, they generally don't take what we suggest them as trainers, because I believe we are linked to the ground. We have more visibility of what is actually happening at the ground, and then we go ahead and when we give the feedback, these people are not ready to take the feedback. They might just hear it, but they don't listen to it. So if you can you can help us understand this part, it will be really great.
Right. So while I understand your frustration, and please don't think in terms of that I'm brushing off your question, but I will just tell you one old proverb that you may have heard. No, one man can lead the horse to the water, but 10 cannot make the horse drink if the horse doesn't want to drink. So in our coaching philosophy, this is what we say: if the leader gets better, it is not because of me. It is not because of the coach, but it is because I was able to show him the benefit of him improving. So to answer your question, if the leader doesn't want to change, we can't. We can recommend things like continuous feedback through 360, formal or informal, performance conversations that are both ways, conversations that are done in the presence of HR representative, So progressive companies do that all the time. My boss gives feedback on me and I give feedback on my boss to the HR also. And now what happens is if one person says, so here is another problem. So if one person says you are a horse, ignore him. If two people say you are a horse, you can say that they are, conniving together. But if 7 people say that you are a horse, get a saddle and start neighing, like a horse. So,
Right.
uh, when 1 or 2 people say something, they could be biased. The beauty of 360-degree feedback is you can tell all the things you don't want to tell people to their face, right? So you can say that because the anonymity is protected. And if one person is saying something, you can ignore it. But 7 out of 10 people are saying that I get angry and upset and I am unapproachable. I better listen then. So that's why another proverb in not proverb but a little funny quote, हम कहते हैं कि गधे को गधा कहने के लिए अंदर का आदमी नहीं कह सकता है, उसके लिए कंसल्टेंट को बुलाना पड़ता है.
That's right.
Very true. Yeah.
So
yeah, it is more of the will part. That's what you're trying to say, sir. That we need to either show him what's in it for him, if he changes, or if he's not ready to even look at the other side of the of the picture, then it's probably go with the flow.
Go with the flow.
Right?
You can't, right? So serenity prayer says that give me strength to change the things I can, give me courage to accept the things I can't change, and give me the wisdom to know the difference between the two. So I'll raise my hand. I've been trying to change some of my habits of my wife, some of the habits of my wife, my wife's habits. We've been married now 27 years, unsuccessfully. So how smart it is of me to make her do certain things certain way. And I'm sure she will agree that some of my annoying habits, she's trying to change it. So what is the value in that? Is it not a waste of time, someone who doesn't want to change?
Right. Thank you, sir.
Just to add in, Nishant, very shortly we'll be coming up with this session called Connection, which is an extension of feedback, and we will be talking about Marshall Rosenberg model there, and we shall send the invite, and we may invite Tusharji again to add more value to that.
That will be great, ma'am. Thanks.
Yeah. So, any other question? Anybody?
Ritu, can I come in?
Yes, Iba.
Tushar, I just want to understand one thing. While interviewing one of my candidates in my last organization, he was for the position of a team leader. So, he said that this sandwich feedback plays a really important role while, giving feedback to the customer care employees. Mm-hmm. So, you are saying that we need to segregate appreciation, coaching, and evaluation. Mm-hmm. Where I've come across a lot of people while interviewing, especially for the TL role, where they say that this sandwich feedback proves really helps, especially in this customer care department. So what do you have to say on that?
Right. So there's this quote from Daniel Pink, the guy who wrote a fantastic book on motivation. Okay. He says that what science tells us and what management practices are, there is a huge gap. We still believe in command and control. So without knowing better, people are doing what they have been doing for years. And it may work sometimes, it may not work sometimes. So we kind of joke that an occasional good game of golf makes me think I am a good golfer. So once or twice, if something works, I might think that, hey, this is the way to do it. But if you do it this way, it will be at least 10 times better.
10 times more fruitful as per you.
Yeah, more effective. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any more questions before we close the session?
Yeah, this is Ashish this side. One more question. Tushar, though receiving feedback is not in our hand, but the people, especially when we are doing, on a senior profile, when we are interacting with teams, stakeholders, so we generally receive feedback. But when is a good time to, do we actually ask people to, when we wanted to give feedback to them, should we ask time, or do we should schedule formally a feedback session with them, and how should we proceed with it?
Right. So are you talking about giving feedback or receiving?
Yes, giving feedback. Receiving feedback is an which is not in our hand. Most of the time it's free of cost, and people tend to give feedback.
Not really, because not all feedback is helpful, and not
Right.
all feedback is. So if my, let's just take a silly example.
Right.
If I go to someone who is a friend and say, give me feedback. So he's wondering whether I want feedback on my new glasses, or whether I feedback on how my pants fit me, or whether he wants a feedback on whatever. So feedback has to be exactly specific. And so this is what I'm trying to improve. So I'm trying to improve my painting. I'm trying to improve my report writing. Can you give me one or two suggestions or feedback that I can improve on it? So that is how the conversation should go. Please give me feedback. So other person wonders what the heck kind of feedback he wants. No?
No, this is on the receiving end. But when should we initiate, the giving feedback to the other person? Probably to
only when the other person is ready.
No.
So should we take a time slot or a formal send a meeting invitation, or just we should go ahead and give a feedback?
So who did you have this in mind? Like, is it your boss? Is it a colleague? Is it a client?
Like I had been with a skip level to a CEO. My reporting has been a skip level to a CEO. So I have my subordinates, I have my seniors in place.
Yeah, but who did you have in mind when you were asking this question?
Majorly subordinates.
Okay, so you can always have when you do have review meetings, right? Progress meetings, progress report meetings, those kinds of meetings. And you can start with yourself. So this is just an idea. Doesn't mean you have to do it this way. And you can start as that, this is what I have come across in feedback, and I would like some candid feedback on X. So not just general feedback. So is there, so two parts, just feedback is past. Feed forward is future. So I can ask that, when did I wrong you? And it creates defensive mechanisms and so on and so forth. So you can simply say that I am trying to become a better manager. What should I, in training parlance, we say start doing, stop doing, do more, or do less. Correct? I want to become a better manager. What should I start doing, stop doing, do more, do less? And just be quiet and ask, listen, thank. But when you do this for 3 or 4 weeks, I'm telling you, I've seen this again and again. The other people will also start asking, because you have done the role modeling yourself. Sir, I also want to improve. What do you think I should do? But who goes first? You or the others? And this is the key difference. So if you wanted to start a culture within your circle of influence, subordinates, peers, routinely ask feedback at every meeting.
But in some sections of society or other organization, people say if somebody has to give feedback, you really don't need to ask. The people will automatically come and they give you the feedback. If you're asking a feedback, that means that you are conscious of something that you have in your mind.
No,
and,
I disagree. Do we ask feedback from consumers? Are you asking feedback from consumers because your product is bad? Or is it because you want to keep improving your product to be even better? No. So we intuitively understand that with consumer products, but we as a product, we don't understand that.
Okay. But we do ask feedback from the consumers as well.
No, there nobody has problem. I haven't found any company who doesn't ask feedback from customers. No. Do they ask feedback from subordinates? That is another story altogether. And if everyone did that, I would be definitely out of business.
Right. Right. And what about when we are what should be the the way you have shared this? It's good. Asking feedback, the way we should go about and asking feedback to the spot. And what should be the thought and the process while we do the same thing from our stakeholders or the management?
Yeah. So you can say you are trying to do feedback. The specific is better. Instead of saying give feedback for me, you can say that, hey, I'm trying to become a better listener. What do you think I should do? I'm trying to become a better report writer. What do you think I should do or not do? Start, stop that. And then write down their suggestions and don't overpromise. What you say is, hey, I'm just collecting suggestions and so it's difficult to change behaviors. I'm going to implement 1 or 2 this month or this quarter, and then I'm going to take others because habit changing or behavior change takes time. So don't raise expectations thinking that every suggestion will be implemented.
Got it. Thanks, Tushar.
So Tusharji, it means it's more of being a role model.
Absolutely.
And one thing I learned from my CEO when I was working with him, directly reporting to him, was that after every session, so he and I used to lead some behavioral workshops together. After every 15 minutes when he used to start, so with the sign language, he used to ask, am I going good? And every break he used to come to me and he used to ask me, is it okay or should I change the flow or should I say something else? And he was ready to accept the feedback at that time. And over a period of time, we realized that it is so important to ask for a feedback that despite being a CEO, he doesn't hesitate to ask for a feedback. And that's how he role modeled. And in his team, everybody started doing that.
Right. So I can quote another quote. Leadership is example. Everything else is nonsense. You can only lead by example. You are always leading by example, whether you realize it or not, whether you agree with it or not, whether you believe it or not. Monkey see, monkey do. That's what human beings are. So when you start doing it yourself with your team, eventually people will start mirroring it. But there is a time lag and there is this discomfort in between to be ready to hear all the things they are saying behind your back, but now they will be saying in your face. So are we ready for that? Or we prefer that in our face, they say, sir, ma'am, you are great. But behind our back, they are saying all kinds of things. So I see it again and again. Like I said, by the 3rd or 4th month of coaching, people, we rock and roll. Now they are on board. Now they understand the value of feedback. Now everyone around them understands that. Now their subordinates are improving also. So it's a cascading and a multiplier effect.
Yes, true. Thank you. Any other question? Anybody wants to say something or maybe any question or any new learning that came out today?
So this is what scares me when I ask people that did you learn anything today? And so that Hindi picture dialogue is there, itna sannata kyun hai bhai? So it's okay. You can always give feedback. I believe I have my email. It's info@newageleadership.com. And you can send me an email requesting the PPT. We'll be happy to send it to you. And visit
I would appreciate if you could just type in the chat box your email ID, and also
absolutely.
Later on, I will share it again.
Okay. Chat.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm hoping I typed it correct. Yeah, no spelling mistakes. Good.
Yeah.
So Ritu, thank you so much. Are we winding up or are there any more questions, I assume?
Questions or anything you want to say, share, how you're feeling right now after attending this session, anything, it's open.
I would like to thank you, Ritu, for giving us this opportunity to interact with Tushar sir. So thank you, Tushar sir, and thank you, Ritu ma'am. We would certainly look forward for some more discussions that we can have like these. So after a long time, even though it was a pro bono session, a free webinar where most of the people would only talk about promoting themselves. But what I really liked is that we actually also talked about few things that that would refresh our skills. So thanks a lot, and I would look forward for more sessions like these. Thank you.
So Nishant, we do have a trainers group, WhatsApp group. If you're keen, you can join in. We have about 20-25 people there in one group and 25 in another group. And it's open to everybody. In case you wish to do that, please drop in your email ID. And I would also request, if you want to learn more from Tusharji, you can follow him on LinkedIn, because that's how I've been learning from him, from his videos. So Tusharji, thank you so much for being a part here in the session today. It was a great value add for all of us.
Thank you again, Ritu, and thank you everyone for participating. I really enjoyed the interaction. And keep in touch. If we can be of any help, it would be our pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Ritu. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tushar.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you so much.